You are listening to Forged Among Stars, a solo RPG actual play podcast presented by DiceGeeks.com. Welcome. My name is Matt Davids. I will be your game master and only player during this season of Forged Among Stars. I am a tabletop RPG writer, game designer, as well as a novelist. I thank you so much for joining me as I play through Ironsworn Starforged, a tabletop RPG designed by Shawn Tomkin. If you would like to learn more about me or the game, please check for links in the description wherever you are listening to this podcast. Now, it is time to journey among the stars. As Hawking sees this gruesome scene beneath this beautiful, shimmering gateway, part of him thinks about rushing in and stepping through, but he restrains himself. Not yet. Too soon. He can't leave Echo. He can't leave the shard of the sun. He needs to record this data and take it with him. The time may come when he needs to step through a gateway, but that day is not today. So, a few things we are going to do here mechanically with the game. I think Hawking would want to learn as much about this planet as he could and record some of the data that he is seeing. So what we will do is we will create a settlement using the PDF of Starforged. And I will roll up a settlement really quickly and use that as the planet here on the other side of the gateway. Now, I will leave it a little vague because it may be in this sector, it may be in a different sector, it may be across the entire forge. I'm not sure yet, but I definitely want to create that, so it is a place that is in our game world. So I am going to use the settlement creation rules right now. All right, the first roll is on the settlement name table, and I have rolled Utopia. So that is ominous for what we are dealing with here, that he is looking through this gateway, and on the other side is a place called Utopia. This settlement is located on the planet side. I went ahead and decided that because I had kind of already said there was a planet on the other side. But there is a table you can roll on in the rules, but I just went ahead and chose planet side. The population is tens of thousands, and that was rolled randomly. And then the first look that he is getting here was rolled also on the table, and it's sprawling or diverse structures. So there's kind of this sprawling, diverse structures that cover the surface of this planetary settlement that he is looking at. I didn't roll for the government because I don't think he would have any clue. I'm not sure how he knows it's named Utopia unless it's in the computer banks, which that would kind of make sense. But any information about the government, I think that would be a little too much. So this is this place he has discovered on the other side of an ancient gateway. But there are a few problems. So I've decided that Hawking will not step through, that he is going to try to take this information back to his ship and deal with this later, because there is an impending earthquake that could happen at almost any moment. And while these ancient structures may not be damaged, they may be. Maybe some of the doorways are covered with rubble. Hawking just doesn't know, so he wants to get in, get out, and of course he can't leave Echo or his ship behind. So he is going to try to record some of this data. Now, as Hawking was making his way to the precursor vault, you may remember he had a bit of a problem. I rolled terribly, and a piece of equipment, it said a piece of crucial equipment failed, and I've already had that be that the comm link between him and Echo on the ship was down. But I had that represented as his communicator, computer pad, data pad, scanner device that he wears on his hips. I had that be dented, and that said that communication was broken there. So that is his recording device. So that may be damaged. Now, the communication may be bad enough, but I am going to roll to see if the recording function of his little scanner item here is also damaged. So I will ask the Oracle, and I am going to give it, I think, a 50-50. That is his scanner damaged. We'll give it 50-50. And if it is damaged in that way, then he won't be able to record this information, but I may still have a few other options if that's the case. But first, we will ask the Oracle and roll 50-50 to see if his little device can still record. Okay, so I rolled a 17 on the Oracle, which means his recording function on his little scanner data pad is still operational. So what Hawking does here is seeing this, this grisly or ghastly scene before him and this beautiful gateway. He removes his hands from the controls, pulls out his scanner, and he begins recording the data that is all around him, and he records this data of the settlement that we had just rolled up. So he gets some of that data. Now, I don't think this is a complete picture. I don't think he has a map to the place or anything like that. Why would they keep a map if they have a gateway? So he is going to get the name and some of that information that we rolled up on the settlement table. And this is just going to be part of the mystery, I think, right? This is just the mystery of the precursors that Hawking here is dealing with. And he is going to try to figure this whole thing out. And of course, it ties into his background vow of using ancient knowledge to build a new clan. So Hawking records this data on his scanner. He gets that information from the gateway. Now, I think we are going to make a couple other moves because Hawking is not satisfied with just the name of the settlement and just a bit of basic information about that. He wants to find out what happened to these humans. Why are they mutated and corrupted? Because it may appear that they came through the gateway and then something happened, but that's totally just conjecture because they could have been on this side all along and then been corrupted. So he's going to, I think, gather information about the corpses. So we'll do a move there. And I think we have a couple other big things that we need to take care of because Survey the Vault, an oath that we took, that Hawking took as dangerous, is now up to 8 progress. So I think we're going to fulfill that vow. We also have to mark progress on our vow to explore and return with information from this vault, which was set at extreme. And I hope I'm doing this right. I'm not sure about having kind of a vow within a vow, but it seems like that is what is supposed to happen. So I think first of those couple of things, since he has reached this place, I think we will go ahead and mark progress on our extreme box. And that is in the form of 2 tick marks, I believe. All right, I am still new at this game. I apologize. I made another mistake. So I have a vow to explore the precursor vault. I have an expedition, which was marked dangerous. I apologize about that. So right now we will finish the expedition because we have reached the destination of the inner sanctum. Okay, I apologize for that. Okay, and since we had 8 progress on our expedition, I have rolled a 6 and a 5 on the challenge dice, so we receive a strong hit. I had marked this survey the vault expedition as dangerous. I probably undersold that a little bit, probably should have been formidable, but I think going in is easier than getting out. So we have marked that expedition. We have completed that. We have reached the inner sanctum. And I am going to get a couple of ticks on my legacy discovery track, I believe. I'm going to double check that. Yes, my legacy discovery track. So now I have 2 ticks in quest, bonds, and discoveries, but I have not gotten to a place where I can get some experience points. Hopefully, after Hawking gets out of here, if he does. He has a long way to go yet, but he has found some very interesting information here in this precursor vault. Okay, so now we are going to make the gather information move to gather information on the corpses in the gateway chamber. And so this will be a roll plus wits, not Hawking's strong suit, but not terrible either. So hopefully he'll be able to gather some information and he can head out of this vault with some really interesting information. Okay, so I got a weak hit on gather information on the corpses. So he does learn something, and mechanically it says you learn the information, but it also complicates your quest. So I'm thinking that, possibly walking through the gateway would really help Hawking's background vow. But what I'm going to say is that when he scans the corpses and the gateway, I don't know, this may be too extreme, but I think he's been having kind of a pretty good go of this so far. So what I'm going to say is when he scans the gateway and the corpses, he detects some type of radiation that mutated and killed these people long ago. And perhaps there is some of that radiation still right here around the gateway. And so his decision earlier not to walk through the gateway was probably a good one. And so he notes this, takes some readings and recordings of the radiation and what it is so he can identify it later on when he is not in a precursor vault with some kind of ancient biomechanical beings who are walking around ready to destroy him, and an earthquake that is about ready to collapse all the entrances or something like that. And he'll record some data from the corpses as well. So maybe later on, if I needed some more information, I could have him roll again on those readings to learn more about the corpses. But right now, he can't really do that. He's just going to scan them, and he is going to move along. I think also, since this is the inner sanctum of a precursor vault, I think I'm going to do the move explore waypoint. And now I know I found a gateway and I found some different things, but those were a little different tables that you can roll on. So I'm going to do explore waypoint before we get out of here, because he is just going to see if he can glean as much information as possible from this site, because that is what Hawking Duval is all about. Well, I got a miss on Explore Waypoint, and one of them was a 10, so if I burned my momentum, I could turn it into a weak hit. However, I don't know if that's what I should do here, because if I burn my momentum and then I face something physically perilous coming up, I would like to have my momentum. So basically what I'm doing is I'm thinking about taking this miss instead of spending my momentum. That means I will miss out on some other type of knowledge here, but it will save my momentum for my journey out of the vault, which I think is going to be quite difficult. So I am going to take the miss on explore the waypoint, and I must pay the price. So let's check out what that means. So pay the price says the most obvious bad thing happens. I don't really know what the most obvious bad thing could be except for the earthquake. And I was thinking about doing something else for the earthquake. I was thinking about running a clock, which the rules talk about, and I'll explain that if we get a chance or if my character's not dead. So I'm just going to roll on this table underneath, pay the price, and try to interpret some of the random rolls that I get. My first roll is a 98, and that says roll twice. So now 2 bad things are going to happen to Hawking Duval. Okay, so I rolled twice on the table underneath pay the price. One result simply says you are harmed. So I'm going to imagine that as perhaps this radiation that Hawking has discovered, it harms him, and I'm going to knock my health from 4 down to 3. The next result said a new enemy was revealed. So before, Hawking heard footfalls in an area where it was almost completely quiet, and he got out of there. So I am going to say the owner of those footfalls has showed up. And so here's how this is going to go down. I will envision this. Hawking is in the chamber, and he's the inner sanctum, I should say, of this precursor vault. He's just scanned the bodies. He's detected radiation from them. He recorded some information. He started to look around a little bit more, and he took a hit to his health from the radiation somehow, whatever it is. And as he is deciding it would probably be wise if he got out of here, he turns around to head out the door that he came in, which would allow us to do a set course move, and he would be able to get out fairly easily. But as he turns around, in the doorway in which he came in is standing a creature. Now, at the beginning, during world creation, we learned that precursor vaults were guarded by remnants, biomechanical beings that often war amongst each other and don't like people coming into their former masters' lairs. And what I'm going to say, this creature, he's definitely vaguely humanoid, but his upper body looks like a humanoid oil slick. And if you've ever seen the Star Trek The Next Generation episode where Tasha Yar is killed, there's a creature called Armis, and he looks like that. This creature looks like that, except he has legs, even though they are kind of rough imitations of legs. But he looks like this humanoid oil slick with only vague outline features of, a head and arms and legs. And we're going to say this is one of those remnants. And he stands in the doorway, blocking Hawking's escape from the entrance that he came in. Now, we've established that the precursor vault is a honeycomb, so there are multiple doors that lead into the inner sanctum here. But Hawking does not know where they lead. So he can face this ancient constructed being that is in front of him, or he can run through one of those other doors and hope he makes it out of the precursor vault. Hawking is not much of a fighter, but he will fight if he has to. However, he would rather try to use his time in the vault to do a little bit more exploring because he's pushing his luck. And I have momentum saved up, which could help me greatly if we get into a fight. So I think what Hawking does is he sees this creature standing in the other doorway, the doorway in which he came through, his way out, a surefire way out. But instead of going that way, Hawking Duval turns and runs through another doorway. Now this means I will have to undertake another expedition. Okay, so running away, the roll is plus edge, and I've gotten a weak hit, and momentum will not turn that into a success, or a strong hit, I should say. So I am stuck. So I need to take either 2 suffer moves or face a peril at a waypoint. Well, I am pretty low on health, spirit, and supply. Oh my goodness. Oh, this is nerve-wracking. I don't know. I think it's too risky to try to face a peril. Even though he may try to explore every waypoint he reaches because he needs to find out more about this precursor vault and get this ancient knowledge. I am going to create this new expedition, and I am going to give it the rank of formidable. So this is going to be even harder for our hero to escape from. So I think I will go ahead and take the 2 suffer moves. I think what is going to happen is that Hawking Duval's spirit is going to take a hit because he was looking forward to getting out of here. Then he saw the creature, and now he's had to run blindly into another tunnel. And this presents a great danger to him because he doesn't know where he's going. He doesn't know if he can get out. Or he'll emerge on the other side of the precursor vault, away from the Shard of the Sun, away from Echo, and he does not like this at all. So I'm going to take a 2 mark hit to spirit. That'll drop me down to 2 spirit. The upside is we do get to mark progress. I did make this expedition. I named it Escape from the Vault. I gave it the rank of formidable. We have 1 box now filled. And we are at a waypoint. But Hawking Duval is curious. He is interested in this place, and he is going to explore this waypoint. Okay, I rolled a miss. However, if I burn momentum, that will make this roll into a strong hit, and I can either recoup or make a discovery, and I will get some extra momentum so I can at least start building some momentum there. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to burn my momentum on this roll to make my result a 10, which I needed, and I'll turn this roll into a strong hit, and then we'll see what happens. So on my strong hit, I can either choose to gain progress or have something favorable happen so I can resupply or get more spirit or health. While my spirit and health are low, my supply is low as 2. My health is at 3, my spirit is at 2, my supply is at 3. However, I think I'm just going to take this opportunity to mark progress so I can get another box filled in. And I want to take a second to imagine this. So Hawking runs from this creature in the other room, and he runs down these, this honeycomb of corridors. And I think, again, like before, I think he just starts to see some symbols on the walls, and he can kind of tell that he's heading towards an exit. And so this gives him boost here. He makes some progress in his expedition to head out of the vault. Yeah, I think that's good enough. I think that is good enough. He just finds a way to mark some progress and move on his way. And so we are going to continue to try to get out of this precursor vault. But I think this does allow him to mark some progress also on his explore the precursor vault. That is extreme, so he only gets 2 tick marks on that. Okay, so Hawking Duval is ready to move along. He chooses another corridor and he heads down it. This time, though, we're not going to use edge. We're going to use wits, because he is now taking his time again, because he does not want to rush through this vault, even though there is an earthquake impending. I think this is also a good time to where I am going to think about implementing the clock for the earthquake. So now, if I'm understanding this right, after each milestone or segment that Hawking reaches, we will roll to see how likely it is that the earthquake has happened, with it getting more and more likely each time. So I'm going to look at that and see how I can set that up. But first, Hawking Duval is going to make another roll to undertake expedition, looking for a way out of this precursor vault. And I got a weak hit. So it says I could take 2 suffer moves, which would put me perilously low on health or supply or spirit. Or face a peril at the next waypoint. And so I think this time we're going to have to face a peril at this waypoint. But I do get to mark progress, so that is good. So let's roll on the peril table for vaults. Okay, I rolled and I got a tempting location or object that holds dangers, but they're tempting. So what could that be? I think the tempting location would be some kind of data banks or a digital library or some kind of physical library. It looks like storage devices, perhaps, in slots along the walls. And Hawking Duval freezes. This could be his chance to learn even more about the precursor vault and gain even more ancient knowledge. But there is a danger lurking. What is that danger? Well, I think this room is a rectangle with the 2 longer sides being covered in these rows of storage devices, maybe chips that are slotted into the walls. And Hawking Duval thinks that these are storage devices and he wants some of this ancient knowledge. However, at the far end of this room, next to the door where Hawking would have to go, is standing one of the remnant creatures. However, this remnant creature is not moving, shows no sign of life. If he pulls one of the chips, will that activate the creature? Is this creature a guardian of this knowledge here? What will happen if he pulls one of those chips out? It could awaken the creature, or it could do something else entirely. Hawking Duval gulps, looks at the creature, looks at the chips on the wall, and slowly reaches his hand up and pulls one out of its slot. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Forged Among Stars. Please consider subscribing to the podcast wherever you are listening to it so you never miss an episode. Another episode will be out soon, but until then, I will see you among the stars.